This 4-step framework is exactly the flow I followed when I started out 8 years ago. Regardless of your current status in life, this path will lead you to become a craftsman. There are two distinct requirements that you need to fulfill in order to start. First of all, you need to start thinking about the problem you currently have in your life, and you have to imagine yourself in the future, let's say 5 years later, with that problem, with the fact that nothing changed in your life. You can even write down the thought if it works out for you in terms of imagination or visualization. That is an important thing to do before you start with the steps. For me personally, I hated the state I was in financially, and it affected me in every aspect of my life. And I imagined myself in the future with that problem existing. Now the next important thing is profile reset. Basically, the thought that some things are meant for me and others are not. It is important to note that many of our beliefs, our perspectives, and in some cases, our identity are influenced by external factors. Step 1. Observation. Shutterstock, Canva, Shopify, Grammarly. These are brands that pointed out a problem in society and got massive through the process. So look around yourself online and offline. You will find pain points around yourself that are creating difficulties for people, maybe yourself, maybe others. In this step, you should not think about goals or creating a brand. You should instead think about daily life issues with a broad perspective. If you observe for long enough, you will spot not one, nor two, but many red cards. This step is basically a foundation for all the other steps that we are going to talk about next. In my case, I realized that digitalization was massive internationally. However, there was considerable lack of skilled individuals, especially in Bangladesh. Step 2. Picking a valuable skill. After the observation phase, you have to make a list. A list of what? You have to take your time, do your research. You pick the problem, you break it apart into smaller parts, maybe smaller pain points, and you make a list mentioning skills that might be potential solutions. And it is important to pick a skill that is interesting to you. I picked web development and then dived deeper into software development because I was interested about the field. There is also a good chance that you already have a valuable skill, but you do not yet understand the value of it or have somehow forgotten about it. So it is important to remember your past experiences at this point. Think about them and then rediscover some of your skills that you might have forgotten about. Just as this part will take a lot of your time, it will also come with some hurdles, some challenges. First of all, if you already assume that you are a certain type of person, as I mentioned in the profile reset part, you will have difficulty picking a skill or discovering skills. So it is important to first try. So why not just give it a try and see for yourself whether something is good for you, something is meant for you or not. Another problem you might face is finding 2 or 3 good skills, but then you will be confused about which one to pick, which one to go with. In that case, pick just one of the skills that is interesting to you and then continue along the lane. Which brings us to our next step, going through it or quitting and repeating. One major factor that is important for this step is step 2, picking a skill and also profile reset, thinking about your problem, which can be considered as step 0. So if you previously thought about your problem, imagined your future with it, and also did the profile reset thing. And then in step 2, you picked the skill after researching about it, after thinking whether it aligns with your interest or not. This step should not be much difficult for you. In my case, when I was learning software development, I already knew my problem and connected my skill with that problem. So I knew my vision, my goal, and the learning process was fascinating for me. For me, the computer was something sacred that could lead all sorts of innovations. And that thing motivated me in terms of continuing my struggle even during hard weeks. It is normal to have difficult phases when you are learning a skill. And when you feel like this skill is not for you, you should not quit. Change your method. Try getting feedback, maybe guidance from the community. Maybe take a breather for a day or two and get back to learning again. Be wary of shiny object syndrome. However, if you feel like that all of the aspects of learning this skill, not one, not two of them, all of the topics are kind of not interesting to you, you hate the process of learning this, you hate the skill itself, I believe it is not too late to stop and repeat step 2, which is making a list. Or maybe you have the list, you had other skills there, so you should consider the other skills and go along with them. So you have to repeat the step 3, repeat the learning process from start. Just as Robert Greene said, you should not build a fortress around yourself. Stay curious while you're learning and get involved in communities where you can get guidance or share your small achievements. It is important to also stay updated with the industry. If possible, you should also network with others and participate in events often. However, it is also important to not let it halt your work. Step 4. Introducing a solution. This is perhaps the most exciting one. After you got the fundamentals down and you know the ins and outs of your workflow, you know a thing or two about working on projects regarding your skill, try creating a service or a product around your skill and frame it as a solution. Now it is important to not stay stuck in the learning process forever and just start delivering. You may feel like you are delivering the most value by being perfect, although it is impossible to be perfect right from the start. You should start delivering and then keep evolving gradually. It is also important that your prices reflect the value you provide as you progress in your career. After I learned the process of developing a solution for a business, I jumped to freelance services. From then on, I kept learning technical and soft skills. Then I kept adopting my business around my skill set and also the information I possessed regarding the industry. If you are too nervous about what you are delivering, you can also start as a mentor. It is certainly a viable way to start initially and then gradually adapt as you evolve. After you go through this, you will transform into a resilient learner who knows his game. You know your strengths and your weaknesses. Eventually, you will also manage more time for yourself, and you can allocate that time for your other interests. This is certainly powerful, but first, you must take action, as action is the foundational key to all success.